Hey everybody, welcome back. I've got Matt Wan with me today, and we've had some really good conversations actually outside of his main business, but we had a lot of fun talking about how he was building a platform to support coaches and gyms that were going through COVID and trying to help end consumers get to these coaches and gyms. But Matt also has built up a company called Momentous, and they are building, would you call it an ultra premium, Matt, or a premium supplement brand that the likes of Jimmy Chin, et cetera, have either invested in or become influencers of to push the idea of quality supplements. So I'm really excited to talk to Matt because I also know that he comes from a finance background. He understands the investment game. So I'd love to talk about how he's built it. But Matt, thanks so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. Would you mind giving people a quick background on kind of who you are and what you're doing and what you're building with Momentous?
Yeah, no problem. Happy to be here. So, Momentous is a company I started working on about 3.5 years ago, I'd say, and it was really born out of personal experience more than anything else. So, growing up, I just became increasingly nerdy, if you will, about my training and inevitably about my diet as well. And specifically, the observation that got me going on this business was when I was fortunate enough to go inside an NFL locker room post game. And what I noticed there was that the brands of sports nutrition products that I was used to seeing, just plastered across the sidelines in every major sports league were not in the locker room. And instead, I saw brands in there that I'd never heard of, products I'd never seen before that if I wanted to go find on, forget Amazon, even a GNC or Whole Foods type of shelf, I just wouldn't have found. And feeling like a person that was, generally pretty educated, feeling like I had relatively good buying power and resources in the sports nutrition market, I was just so sort of disillusioned by the fact that I'd never seen or heard of any of these products before. I can buy the shoes that they're wearing. I can buy the jersey that they're wearing. I can buy the equipment that they're training with in the weight room. But when it comes to the products and nutritional resources that they're using to improve their performance from the inside, it was surprising to me that I'd never heard of any of these brands before. So skipping forward, we basically tried to figure out why is that? Why is it? Why are we not buying brands and products like this? And we went through a whole bunch of iterations of, should there be some sort of better D2C model? Does there need to be, some sort of subscription component? Is the price not right? Is the branding not right? And ultimately, it's like a lot of things. It's a combination of factors. But the truth was, it's not that there were no other great products out on the market. It's that these really high quality products were not the ones that were connecting with consumers at this sort of day and age. We were sticking with the products of sort of legacy brands that we'd seen in the GNCs or vitamin shops for the last couple of decades, coming out with platinum or ultra premium quote version, and that was just not what myself as a consumer was looking for. So at the end of the day, the thesis for the business is essentially that there's a lot of other consumers like me who are looking for better for you products and processes in every other category of health and fitness. But when it came to sports nutrition, they were still just buying sort of whatever was on the shelf at their local Whole Foods or GNC or whatever was highly rated on Amazon. And that was not reflective of what we felt the best products in the space actually were capable of.
What products do you currently have for consumers?
We've got, so company's still pretty early. We launched with a whey protein about 2+ years ago. Followed that up pretty quickly with a plant-based protein. And we also have a number of recovery products as well. So that is our whey protein plus carbohydrate and some micronutrient combinations that sort of optimize the product for post-workout recovery. So we do an endurance product and a strength product. So coming out of the gym versus coming out of, a much longer draining session where you've really depleted muscle glycogen. Separately, we've got now a standalone creatine product, which I just think is a really important nutrient for people to be taking, particularly in a safe and NSF certified form. And then separately, in one of our better selling products is actually our sleep product, which I can show you. So this is the sleep product. This is just an encapsulation here. I take 1 or 2 of these before I go to bed every night. And I actually came up with this product. I shouldn't say I came up with it. That's not true. I asked somebody else to come up with this product because our head of product, a guy named Dave Scholes, was staying at my house over the summer on vacation. And I noticed he was sort of mixing something together before he went to bed every night. And I was like, what is that, Dave? Like, what is that? Because this guy's a total, total nutritional nerd, right? I mean, this guy really goes down the rabbit hole when it comes to research. And it was a number of things, but the ingredient I found most interesting was called magnesium L-threonate, which is a patented form of magnesium and the only one that's been clinically shown to cross the blood-brain barrier. So it was actually developed as a nutrient that was designed to promote brain health, as magnesium levels in the brain have been shown to decline with age. But another one of the effects that we've observed with it, and others have as well, is that it provides a really calming effect on the body and the central nervous system. So I think it's a really great nutrient to be taking, frankly, any time of day, but particularly at night. I think it makes for a really potent combination when combined with the melatonin that's also in that product.
So when you think of your end consumer, are you thinking about performance folks, and let me call it performance meaning sport, or people who really exert physical energy at a high level? Or are you thinking about the more common people who do want performance, but maybe they don't expend as significant amounts of energy? Who is your big consumer?
Well, the way that we make the products and the sort of standard that we cater to is a little bit different than who our sort of true end consumer is. So that's a really fair question. When we were actually developing these formulas, we developed them with a group of performance experts from each of the 4 major leagues. So these are the people whose names you would have never heard of, but are actually working at a lot of these professional sports teams and buying the food and supplements for the athletes. So they work with us to develop the formulas. And as a result of that, a portion of our business is actually selling to professional and collegiate sports teams. But the sort of biggest potential upside for us is, of course, the consumer market. And in that respect, it's some people that would certainly consider themselves athletes, some people that would consider themselves performance motivated. But across the board, it's just a little bit, I'd say, softer than that. It's a combination of people who are, maybe competing lightly, or at least training seriously, maybe would be a better way to do that. But really, more than anything, it's just people who are really serious about taking care of their bodies.
Mm-hmm. For something like
our worst demographic is 18 to 25.
Like the meathead 18 to 25, those folks, or just
across the board. We do not do well with 18 to 25. We do very well with 30 to 40. And actually 25 to 40 is really the meat of our customer base. But the point being that, it's generally people who have taken a supplement before, who have probably tried several of them, who have, a career that they're pretty motivated about. A lot of them have young kids. They've got a lot of responsibility and a lot going on with their lives. So they might not be worried about, trying to get a D1 scholarship or trying to look good at the beach next month, but they might really be concerned about improving their lives in a sustainable way.
I have a feeling that most of them would love to still look good at the beach, though, Matt, if given the opportunity.
For sure.
So when you think about supplementation, you mentioned that it could be done, for the sleep pill, kind of throughout the day for calming. how much are you
Well, I
trying to
wouldn't
get
take
people?
melatonin in the middle of the day, to be clear.
Okay, maybe I misunderstood you or misheard you then. Okay, so um, my question is, how much are you trying to get folks to change lifestyle to calm them down as compared to using a supplement to calm them down in the long run? Like, would you expect somebody to take a sleeping pill? I don't want to call it a sleeping pill. It's not that, but would you want them to take that perpetually? Like, is that the expectation?
If that's what made them sleep better, then yeah, I think this is actually a really healthy alternative to a cocktail or a glass of wine or other types of substances or, particularly pharmaceutical solutions. If you can get yourself to a place where you don't need any sort of input to wind down at night and get a really restful night of sleep, of course, that's the ideal situation. But, I might equate a product like this for that consumer a little bit to something like a pre workout, where, I personally feel like I don't really need a pre workout most of the time. I'm pretty happy with my double espresso. But for a lot of people, that's not really the point, right? The point is that having that pre workout is something that they enjoy. It's something
Hmm.
that's going to them. It's something that provides a lot of concern for them in their pre-workout routine. And I think products like this can provide a really similar measure of that for people in their sort of nighttime routines as well.
Gotcha. When you think about scaling this product to a much larger audience, um, what do you think you guys will need to do in order to reach a lot more people? And where I'm ultimately going to try to ask the question is, do you believe that you can reach a significantly larger market with premium pricing? I've always been told that the supplement market ultimately becomes a how do we get the price low enough to reach a big enough, let's call it revenue maximization point. Are you trying to play this differently kind of through the brand and the influencers, etc., or do you think you will have to get a price point a little bit lower over time?
Yeah, it's a great question. It probably comes down to, do you think your customer base, not the market as a whole, but do you think your customer base is going to consider your product a commodity or not? Because if they consider it a commodity, then you're going to be competing on price, almost inevitably, right? But I don't believe that these products should be treated that way. I think there's very few other products that we put into our body that we treat that way, particularly in the food and bev category. We think a lot of our consumers care where their ingredients came from and how they were processed. So if we're successful in justifying a premium price via premium ingredients, then I don't think we need to consider bringing down the price point over time. It's not like we price it specifically to attract a premium consumer, right? It's like we there's no way we could sell this stuff at the same price point as a gold standard product. It's the cost structure is just so significantly different than something that would be on a GNC shelf. So you're never going to end up competing for that type of audience anyways.
Hmm.
That being said, I don't think you know what the right price is until you're out there.
Mm.
So truthfully, I think if we wanted to serve a much wider audience with a product like sleep, I think we might need to find some other ways to do it.
Mm.
I think there's probably a pretty significant market for the product we have now. But if you wanted to capture a market that was sort of 5 or 10 times that, then you probably need to be looking at a lower cost per serving and a lower sticker price, right? Just because it's inevitably at some point for people prohibitively expensive. But supplements are prohibitively expensive for every individual at some level, right?
Yeah.
It's a question of what your target audience is and what they're looking to spend.
Yeah, it's interesting when I think about food. That's such an interesting comparison. You know, it's I don't often hear supplements talked about as organic supplements, you know, but food is now so synonymous with organic or vegan or um, what would steak be? Prime, right? You know, I wonder if naming
Right.
almost has to be, yeah, grass fed. I almost wonder if and I know that it's coming. I've seen it a little bit in supplements. I just wonder if that will be what the consumer market needs to see. Is just it's just on the title almost, just to tell them this is actually premium. Um, Interesting. Okay, so
I mean, you must experience the same thing in the fitness business to some extent, right? That a
mhm.
premium product has different cost structures, and so you're going to charge a premium price for it. But there's always going to be a question of where do you start? How do you move around within that ecosystem of other premium price points?
Yeah, and to say that it's locked in stone forever is very difficult because I mean we do a lot of digital coaching education. If all we had were videos, the price of videos are dropping precipitously, you know, so that's not going to hold its value. So the product has just been consistently reimagined because we want to sit in the highest level of coaching education that there is. So we've just got to be out front, which I'm sure you're thinking about as well, not only with ingredients, but also with the way that you present the brand, which I love the way that you present the brand, which clearly there should be a willingness to pay bump just because of what people feel like when they see how you present that brand. How, what is in your mind? What do you want people to feel when they see Momentous?
The most obvious thing I can think of is that I want them to feel like this is something that's going to make them feel better,
Hmm.
because all of our customers, nobody's sort of buying us randomly. All of our customers are people that have some sort of goal or desired outcome in mind. Very few of our customers are going to be people that are going to see an ad and see an ad of some guy flexing on a beach and think, you know what, I should start working out.
Hmm.
We are going to have, this is exactly how many people we've convinced to start working out, right?
Yeah.
We're not going to do it. We're not going to do it. We are not magicians. I'd love to spend some time on that problem as well, but that's not the business we're in right now. We serve people who are pretty darn motivated. Like I said, they're generally people who have tried other products before and have something in mind, like, hey, I want to set a personal best in the 10K. Hey, I want to be able to play with my kids when I'm 55 and maybe they're 35 right now or something like that, right? I want to live longer. I want to lose weight. I want to look better, whatever it is, even if it is the looking better thing, which is a totally legitimate goal. They've got something in mind.
Yeah, that is so similar to our end consumer market as well. Is I always talk about that we're where you go next. You know, it's you don't start with, well, typically I should say, you don't start with an individual personalized program. It's just not where you typically start. You might do some personal training if you're sold into it at a lifetime or whatever, but you're probably not getting comprehensive coaching, lifestyle, nutrition, etc. So I think we're playing in a very similar end consumer
No,
market there.
yeah. And you'd never get that first time customer to pay a premium, right? Because they wouldn't
Hmm.
understand what it is that they're getting for those extra dollars, right?
Gotcha. What have some of the difficult challenges been since opening a few years ago?
Hmm. Uh, there's been a lot, as you would expect with any business. So it depends what sort of side of the business you'd want to talk about. I'd say the biggest challenges have been probably just learning how to run the business, frankly. I came into it with pretty strong feelings about, what made for a good product, how I wanted the brand presented, what the right way to talk about the products were, and then separately sort of, okay, how to put together, okay, how to do some of the really basic stuff, like, okay, we've got lawyers to do all the incorporation stuff. We can put together a corporate structure pretty straightforward here, and run that. But then all of a sudden, I'm handed the keys to a consumer brand, and
Hmm.
now you've got people working for you. And I didn't know anything about marketing. I knew absolutely nothing about marketing. So that was clearly the biggest challenge for me, was learning how to manage that.
What would you say you have learned, like one or two really profound points about marketing? What are some of the big hitters that you think about often now?
Listen to people who are smarter than you is probably the best one. Not necessarily purely smarter than you, right? But we hire these people for a reason, so you should try to listen to them pretty often. I'd say we've also learned something that I probably mentioned earlier, which is marketing is really only good at reminding you of what you already believe.
Mm.
So your chances of converting somebody who is not a supplement consumer into a supplement consumer is very low. That is going to be a really, really costly acquisition. You need to be thinking about people who already want to consume products to improve their physical health.
Hmm.
Whether that is, better for you foods or better for you supplements, you've got to be getting in front of the people who already want your product, but maybe just don't know it yet.
Interesting. That's such a good point. What have you found has converted some of your existing clients from one product into yours?
Truthfully, I think awareness is more of a driver than we expected it to be in this business. Um, we've got a pretty strong Amazon business, which a lot of that to me suggests convenience is a pretty significant factor for our customers. Awareness of people thinking, oh, I'm out of protein powder. What's a good brand, right? As opposed to just seeing an ad and going and clicking and buying it right away. Awareness is a pretty significant factor for us. In terms of conversion, if we can get samples into people's hands, that's a big one. That's a really big one, because we think we do well on taste. We think
Mm.
we do well on sort of the packaging and consumer experience. So particularly an experienced consumer that's got, a couple of other products in their mind that they can compare it to once they receive and try the product, that's pretty good for us. Then in terms of conversion, it's probably the most difficult part of the funnel, right? It's trying to get somebody to actually take action. So, that's probably not necessarily hugely different for our business than it is other e-commerce businesses, right? You're trying to think about, how do you communicate this clearly? How do you really justify the price easily? How do you reduce the number of clicks? How do you just make this a really seamless shopping experience for the customer, to the point where it's basically already in the cart by the time they get there.
It's interesting, you know, anybody who's listening to this, go look at the site, go look at their website. It's super clean, it looks really high end. But I love that you're saying that some of the things that create consistency in purchases are almost underlying things that people don't even recognize. It's almost unconscious things, like it's easy to get it into the cart, or it's easy to make a decision. So many coaches forget about that. They want to be premium and they think about their service, and then they don't ask for a referral, or they don't have a simple way for a client to start with them. I think that that's such an important part. And we're talking about, Matt, you've got a brand that could grow significantly large. When you think about your brand and your brand message and voice, um, what are sort of some of the inspirations for that? Where did that really come from?
Maybe a little bit of my personality, truthfully, but the brand process was led by myself and one of my early partners in the business, a guy named Rob Deerdeck, down in LA, who most people know from reality TV, funny enough. But um, I didn't really watch his shows too much before actually meeting him and getting into business with him. I knew him as an entrepreneur. I knew him as from a couple of businesses that he started previously, and he was really helpful for me in trying to identify, um, okay, not just what do you think looks cool, but who are you trying to serve, right? Who are you trying to get this customer in front of? And maybe as one anecdote from that process, the style of the packaging. I can get another package here. So it's like relatively clean, you'd say. I don't want to like toot our own horn, but you can visually see there's not like a huge number of styling elements. It's white dominant. It's clear packaging, so you can see this is a chocolate flavor. You can obviously see the color there. Um, that was all inspired because my observation was that when I had old products at home, I'd leave them on the kitchen counter, you know, next to the shaker bottle, next to the blender, or wherever it was that you were using it. And when I had friends over or family over, I'd put it away because it looked like junk. It looked like clutter. I was almost like embarrassed by it, you know, the massive black bottle with holographic lettering. And that was just not reflective of what image I wanted to put out of myself.
Interesting. That's such a,
So the takeaway basically was we wanted to have something that you would be okay leaving on your kitchen counter.
I love that. It's such a simple idea, but so profound. When you think about sort of your next big step for the company, what is the next big step?
There are a couple of them. The biggest thing is product line expansion, that we
Okay.
want to be able to serve more of our customers' needs, right? Um, Getting in front of more customers is still, you know, priority 1, 2, and 3 in terms of growing the business, but I wouldn't consider that necessarily like an individual milestone. Separately, we're looking at doing some partnerships. So I won't name them here, but we basically believe that health and fitness can be a pretty segmented industry, and that people who, for better or worse, people who buy CrossFit products sort of just want to buy CrossFit products. People who are into endurance just want to buy endurance products, and there's not necessarily something wrong with that. But what we don't want to do at Momentous is try to make everybody happy and end up pleasing nobody as a result. So our belief is that our product is appealing and valuable to a wider number of audiences than we can possibly serve from a marketing perspective. So our initiative is to partner up with a number of other health and fitness brands or athletes. In some case, it's going to be an athlete partnership that we're launching in June, and to basically build momentous quality products for that brand and serve a customer base that we otherwise just wouldn't have the capital or bandwidth to go out and try and acquire or serve, and still bring them a great product.
Am I understanding you to say that you're essentially white labeling Momentous? Is that what you're saying? Or
Yeah, that's a good way of describing it. I don't really like to describe it as white labeling, because we will have our brand name on there as
okay,
well. It'll be a little bit of a sort of mixed or co-branding, as they say. But yeah, they're not, these are products that are going to be, they are truly momentous products. Some of them will be the same formulas as what we currently offer, and some of them will be custom formulations if we believe that there's a product that is, you know, a particularly good fit for that audience, but perhaps not for ours.
gotcha. Okay, I'm going to ask a couple selfish questions just because I love process as well. what makes your manufacturing or, well, let me ask that first. What makes your manufacturing an advantage for you guys?
And when you say that, do you say what makes our manufacturing an advantage? Are you trying to talk about relative to other products on the market? Or are you thinking about it in the context of why is it better for one of these other health and fitness brands to work with us rather than make the product themselves?
I was originally thinking about the latter in terms of, you know, if you do a co-branded deal, why do I, as this other brand, want to bring you on? Now, obviously, I have my thoughts. You know, I think your brand and your product is good, um, but what about the, like, maybe a better question is where in your process makes you guys the right choice to be something co-branded as well as standalone?
It basically comes down to, I'd say, the quality of the product. It's actually not that difficult to go out and have some sort of protein powder or vitamin product produced. That's why there are so many of these brands, right? Is the barriers to entry are, let's be real, lower than they should be,
Hmm.
right? What's difficult is making a good product. And making a great product is a total pain in the ass. So there's that sort of constant, basically build versus buy argument. And in this case, we're sort of the buy argument, where it's just easier for those businesses to say, hey, this is a great company. We've got a good relationship with them. We know the product is going to be good. We do not need to go out and invest in the infrastructure and operational capacity and even manpower to manage a supplement business, which is just a completely different business than what their core competency is, right? It would be like if Momentous were to consider selling workout equipment like dumbbells and weights on our website. We
Hmm.
could go out and invest in a better way uh, to do that and do it ourselves, or we could go to Rogue or Iron Grip or Sorinex and say, hey, we like your product and we think it brings value to our customers.
Got it. Okay. Can you tell me a little bit of the specifics of why making such a great product is such a pain in the ass?
Well, it mostly comes down to the sourcing, I think. Getting it from wherever the hell those ingredients are produced and put into a bottle in a safe way. So the sourcing process for us really starts with those performance excerpts I mentioned. So that's when you look at why when you look at our ingredient list, it's not you know hey, it's whey isolate instead of whey concentrate, because at one point that was sort of the measure of premium in the supplement market. It is German cold processed, grass fed, hormone free, and antibiotic free whey isolate, because these guys literally had preferences on where they thought the dairy farming practices were best around the world. It's magnesium glycinate instead of magnesium oxide. It is D-ribose instead of fructose in the recovery products. So if we had just sort of gone to a co-man and said, hey, can you help us build a protein powder? Those are not the sources they're going to give you.
Mm.
That's not the sources they're going to recommend to you. And to get those products into the hands of an athlete, you also have to take a lot more steps. So there were 1,000 different co-manufacturers we also could have gone to, but we needed to be able to really have a high level of confidence in the quality control measures in place there. And then there were sort of some strict guidelines as well, in that we needed to have our product NSF certified for sport. And in order to do that, the product itself needs to be tested and the facility needs to be tested.
So do you guys
So
have your
that
own facility?
really significantly.
Hmm. I'm sorry. Do you have your own facility that you're doing all of this inside of then?
No, we don't own the facility. No. It's
Okay.
it's a manufacturing partner on the East Coast of the United States, but like I said, it really came down to within the scope of manufacturers in the US who could produce an NSF certified for sport product. Then it came down to in-person manufacturer visits, touring the facility, touring and seeing where are the ingredients kept, what does it look like when they're put into the bottle, what's the nature of this relationship going to look like, who are we actually going to be dealing with there, and so it's just, anybody that manufactures a product would understand it's just sort of more complicated than you think it is.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've never manufactured a product, so these are legitimate questions for me. I'm just curious. Okay, sort of a last question for you here. One of the things that I've noticed a lot is that you have a lot of big name people that seem to love the product. How have you built those relationships? Why do they love the product so much, and what are you looking to build with them?
I guess, like I said at the start of the call, I think that each of those individuals sort of has their own story. You know, Rob, as an example, was actually the first sort of outside investor in the brand. He was somebody that my dad knew from one of his former startups. And so I just got an introduction to him, knowing what he does in the consumer space and feeling like he might be, an interesting opinion to get, or might have some introductions for me. But we just hit it off. And, he's become a really, really important mentor to the business. With somebody like Jimmy Chin, for example, he had been like my dream athlete from the start. And so, I wanted to figure out how to get to him. And it turned out that one of my dad's friends was friends with somebody who often co-invested with him. And so there was like this string of 3 checks that we needed to get in order to basically bring Jimmy into the fold. But actually all of those guys have been really, really great for the business overall anyways. So they've all sort of got their own stories to how they got involved, but ultimately what ends up, I think, bringing them to the table at the end of the day is it's just probably the quality of the product. I think these are all people who have used these types of products before, who care about using these products and know how they make them feel. And so when they're able to see the product and try it, they get it. I'd equate it to fundraising. The fundraising process for us, there's some really different interactions we have, where if I'm talking to somebody who is an athlete or was an athlete or trains hard, they just get it right away.
Mm-hmm.
They get it right away. And with people who don't use these types of products, don't have any interest of it, or have never set foot in a gym, it's the crapshoot.
Yeah, I can understand that in a big way. Okay, what do you enjoy the most about building this business on a personal level?
Having the ball in my hands.
Oh, love that answer. That's awesome. Well, Matt, thank you so much for coming on, man. I really enjoy talking to you when we get the chance. I would love to keep it going. How can people learn more about you or Momentous when they start looking?
So it's livemomentous.com is the website. @livemomentous is the Instagram. I don't remember what my own Instagram is off the top of my head, but I'm sure I can send you the link or something like that.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Matt. Have a good weekend, man, and I'll chat with you soon.
Yeah, Jim, thanks. Same to you. Enjoyed it.